What's up, hockey fans? Happy Tuesday night. Welcome to another episode of Pod Snipe Celly. Joel, starting off strong with the belch. That sounded healthy, and I hope that means you're having a healthy dinner over there.
I did. I just finished a poke bowl or poke bowl. It's a poke. It's poke, okay. But it's. I know people call it a poke bowl, and who am I to correct them?
I don't know. You're Joel. You have the authority. You're a podcast host. That's how
you're
it works.
Damn right I am.
I love poke bowls. That's a fantastic dinner. It really customizable. You can get all sorts of healthy stuff in there. It doesn't have to be 100% healthy, but
I feel like I had a decent. What is your go-to ingredients in a poke bowl?
Okay. Shoot, edamame has got to be in there if I can get that.
Yes.
You need. I feel like it needs like cucumbers, something that's light but crispy to it.
Yep.
Good rice is key, and like the sesame seed rice.
Yep.
Got to have good sauce too. I can give or take a few other ingredients: carrots, onions, peas, some of that kind of stuff. But like if it's got a good sauce, like that makes or breaks if it's a good poke bowl for me.
I was a dumbass and forgot to click a sauce option, so it's okay.
It's what it is. It happens. It's still good without.
Mark was 20 minutes early and he polka bowl. You know what?
That's a German dish.
Polka King of the Midwest. What movie? Name that movie.
No idea.
What? Polka King of the Midwest.
I should know it.
Home Alone. John Candy in the back of the truck.
Couldn't come up with it. I was like, I'm picturing John Candy, and that was not the John Candy movie that was like coming to mind.
Dan, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed.
For some reason, my mind went to Cool Runnings, and I knew that was wrong, so I didn't want to embarrass myself. And now I'm in a hole and still digging. So we're gonna quit digging. But welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a good one on tap here for you tonight. And before we get too far into things, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow at Pod Snipe Celly.
Do it
on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. We go live Tuesdays now, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. We'd love to hear your comments throughout the show. Let us know if you're having poke bowls for dinner tonight. What all else you got on the menu? We did spinach tortellini and garlic bread.
At the house here tonight. Sweet so Jesus.
It was an excellent dinner. Tortellini is like such a solid.
Dude, you've been obsessed with tortellini since
tortellini and ravioli. It was actually ravioli that we did, but either one, stuffed pastas, A+.
You've been obsessed with tortellini. Like you would camp outside Bradley's student center during tortellini night or day or whatever.
Yeah. Got a comment here from Alex Micheletti, and we're going to touch on this one in a little bit.
Twitter comment.
Teams should be all over Elias Lindholm. Get him out of Calgary. Alex, let me tell you.
Hold on. Who gave Alex our idea rundowns?
without hijacking the show here, I have him as number one on my should be traded trade target list.
We all do.
There is a very, very good chance that Elias Lindholm ends up setting the market and will be the first big piece to fall in terms of setting up the trade deadline. We're going to give some thoughts on where he might go as well later in the show as well. So
I have some.
Be sure to stick around for that one.
I'm going to tease Mark. I have a fun trade proposal I heard on another podcast today that I want his thoughts on. That involves Boston.
Oh boy. Well, Joel, let's get into it here with a couple of teams that we think should be buyers at the trade deadline. Typically, this is either a team that is out in front and needs one more piece to put them over the top, or a team that is kind of right on that playoff bubble and really needs that extra push over the back half of the season to get there, maybe even to get home ice in the first round here. Joel, give me a team or two that you think absolutely should be buying and what sort of things you think they might need down the stretch here.
So I would probably lean toward... I just had it. Where'd it go? So I say this every year. I won't elaborate too far on it. I always think over the last probably 3 years, I think I've said this the last 3 years in a row, Edmonton needs to absolutely be buying. I mean, they are Did they? I can't actually remember. Did their historic winning streak end, or are they still going?
They're still going. They're on a
They're at
16-game win
16.
streak.
So they are at 16 right now. They're finally waking up. The beast has been awoken. Apparently, hopefully they can keep the momentum through this big break we're about to have. But
And amazingly, despite that win streak, they're still 14 points back of Vancouver in the Pacific Division.
yeah, well, that's how shitty of a start they had. So it's
bad start and Vancouver being hot.
Right, exactly. So I mean, I will always say them because they obviously need to add defensemen. I haven't actually seen. I mean, I don't. You could probably gut check me. I wonder what exactly defensemen really are on the kind of trade blotter this season. It's a lot less than it's been the last couple seasons.
It is still kind of early in that regard to really have a solid set of market. One guy that I've got my eye on over the next couple of weeks here is Colton Parayko with the St. Louis Blues. Blues are in the playoff picture now, but they are on the bubble. Really not looking too solid here going into the All-Star break. They've been better as of late, but a 5-game win streak into the break has them 6-3-1 in their last 10. Still a minus 11 goal differential, which I believe is either the worst or second worst of any team that is in playoff position right now. So already some big red flags for a team that is kind of on the bubble at the halfway-ish point of the season here. So he's somebody that I think there's a solid chance that he ends up as someone who could be on the move.
I offer this. And I have to find something really quick, but I offer that they can go for Matt Dumba. I know Arizona signed him in free agency, but
yeah,
I think that's. I'm not saying that puts you over the edge. Like, all right, you're going, you're cup contending now, but that's some much needed depth. He brings some size. He brings some offensive upside, which you already have all that in your defenseman anyway. That's part of the problem. But his defensive play, and I think, you can attest to it. His defensive play is good enough to add to a defense that's kind of meh.
I think that would be for Edmonton. I don't know that that's the right fit. It's an interesting fit, and I think you put him on maybe power play 2 and get even more offensive punch with that team.
Yep.
There is that, but I think maybe another guy that they could look at would be, and this would be a wild trade given the history and rivalry between these teams, but maybe Chris Tanev from Calgary is someone who could be in the mix there as well. Noah Hannafin from Calgary. And even Sean Walker from Philadelphia. The Flyers, I think it's fair to say they've overperformed to anyone's expectations for what that club was going to do coming into the season. If things start to go south for Philly coming out of the break, that's somebody I think could be on the move. At the same time, with how pretty consistent Walker's been this year, I also wouldn't be surprised if that's something where he ends up getting some sort of an extension and stays in Philadelphia for a little while longer here. So, but I do think if they can get another defenseman in the picture, that would be a huge boost to that club. And given their cap situation as well, they have about $4 million in deadline cap space. So that's a little bit of room to work with. Not much. It's probably going to have to be kind of money in, money out. But some additional help on the back end, especially maybe you move Cody Ceci. I think that would be
it's something I don't like. I don't want to spend too much time on Edmonton. I say that they should they need to be buyers every deadline, and it's usually how it goes, and they typically don't, or at least they don't buy much. The other team that absolutely should probably think about buying is the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, Vancouver is uniquely positioned where, again, a team that I don't think we saw having this strong of a start, but it feels like for a couple of years now, it's been like, when are they finally going to put it together and make a run at this thing? This is that year. This is your shot, and you don't know when this kind of shot is coming by again.
And
you got to
that's
go for it.
absolutely. And I don't want to compare them like their history. Obviously, they have better history than this, but it's kind of like a Detroit Lions scenario here. Like the
Yep.
Lions were so damn good enough this year to make the Super Bowl. Obviously, they didn't, but it's a similar case. Like the Canucks, no one expected this year from the Canucks. Maybe they expected them to be a bubble team. I don't remember where I had them at the beginning of the season. I probably had said somewhere on the bubble, I think.
Yeah, right around 4 or 5 would have been about the expectation.
A questionable bubble team is pretty
Right.
much where I think that the consensus was. Maybe that 3 seed, maybe, but no one expected. I mean, they were at one point. I'm actually checking right now to see if they still do. They still are the best team in the league. They're still first in the league. No one, I don't think anyone. Oh, they're tied for first. Sorry, with Boston. There you go, Mark. But still, I don't think anyone called that one. And if they did, I'm going to say bullshit. You're lying.
And shout out to friend of the show, Isha Jerome, our resident Canucks fan.
Yes.
Who is absolutely loving this season.
Oh, yeah. But that's, you know what? That's my point. Like, they are exceeding expectations. Now, yeah, I know most teams want to keep it sustainable, but why not go rent someone? Like, you are clearly hot enough and sustainably hot enough. It's not a flash in the pan. Clearly, we're more than halfway through the season now. Heading into the All-Star break, they've been arguably the most consistent team all year. Add to it. You talked about it was Alex Micheletti brought it up. You're going to talk about it a hell of a lot more. Add Elias Lindholm to that, man. I know you got to give up that. It's disgusting.
It would be disgusting. And the money movement on that would be tough because Vancouver.
I'm glad you said that because here's how they could do it. This is a bit of a no, I'm not going to tease because we're going to talk about our own teams, but the Canucks could probably afford to do a little bit of a salary dump trade of Andrei Kuzmenko.
Interesting.
Yep.
Kuzmenko does have a 12-team no trade list. He's got a $5.5 million cap hit this year and next year.
Yep.
But if you're looking for some extra punch in your lineup and you need somebody there, it would be a difficult swing, I think, to pull Lindholm from a division rival, especially, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver do not like each other. That's always just a geographic rivalry. It's been that way for years. Not going to change anytime soon. But and I'm trying to remember which GM it was that said this. But it was if you limit yourself to trades outside your division, you limit the number of opportunities to get better.
Of course.
And this is really an opportunity that the Canucks should consider if they can pull that off.
Yeah. And I have an answer to that, but I'll save it for the next section of the show.
Okay.
That's what we call a tease.
I had 2 teams penciled in on my end as options that should be buyers. First off, I went with the Nashville Predators. This is a club that has, in recent years, really been a second-half team, especially with UC Saros, who seems to put up good numbers in the first half, but elite numbers in the second half of the season. And seeing that as a team where, Nashville is right on that playoff bubble right now. They're holding down the wild card 2 spot. And they're tied with St. Louis. They're 2 points up on Seattle, 3 up on Calgary. And they can make a splash here down the stretch. They have $37 million in deadline cap space, according to Cap Friendly. They can bring in some pieces and some legit top 6 players. Gustav Nyquist has been having a resurgent year for Nashville. We saw some of the signs of that with Minnesota last year. That it's with Nyquist, it's always if he can stay healthy, he is a very good player. He's having an excellent year with Nashville this year. Philip Forsberg is always somebody that you've got to keep an eye on. What Nashville as an organization brings defensively. If they can go and bring in a scorer, I think they need one more, maybe second line center and second line winger, just to really help kind of round out that roster a little bit. Defensively, you're set. Goaltending, you're set. You can never have too much center depth. And another scorer in that mix, Nashville can make some noise down the stretch here. And then the other team I had was the Winnipeg Jets. With their 2 points out of first place, they've got 2 games in hand. They have been dealing with an injury to Mark Scheifele, which, of course, as I just said, center depth, you need it. But they are 2-0 against Colorado this year, which that's a team you could potentially be playing in the first round. They're 0-2 against Dallas, also a team you could potentially be playing in the first round. There's a lot going right in Winnipeg this year. Build on it. Build on what you've been doing. You've got young players stepping up and playing well. You've got your veteran players in a groove. Just a matter of keeping guys healthy. I think if you can get maybe a third line center, middle six type center, and another left-hand D on that roster, I think that's a Winnipeg team that could make a deep playoff run. But again, it's going to come down to how do you get by Dallas and Colorado? Getting one of those players in will do it.
Right. I like that. I can see that.
I like yours.
Well, I mean, they're a little. One was obvious, and one is the kind of just my go-to. Like, you guys get the freaking hint. Please
Edmonton's a
buy more defensemen. I don't know who you can buy.
Empty net.
Hey, we'll give them Jared Tenorti.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure they'd love that.
The way they pick defensemen outside of maybe a couple, I'm sure they're okay with it.
Yeah, he does kind of fit the model based on the performance.
What, being a pylon?
A little bit.
Okay.
They've traded for some pylon D through the years.
Mark offers up the Bruins Matt Grzelcyk. I've heard the name thrown around a little bit too, and it just too early, speculation type stuff. So, he's anyone is needing an undersized mobile blue liner. He's only got a $3 million AAV and he's going to be a UFA this summer. Yeah.
Now, somebody who could be on the move, and I think especially Boston, if they decide they want to go after a center and get someone to take on the type of role that David Krejci has filled in recent years, they might need to move Matt Grzelcyk just to make the money work. So that's definitely a name that we got to keep an eye on there too.
And this is the point where I'm going to give Mark my. Oh wait, no, I was going to save that.
Well, we can.
I was going to save that for the sellers portion.
You know what? We can move into sellers now because I think we kind of hit the buyers here.
Yeah, I mean,
let's move in on the sellers here and some teams that should be looking to part with some assets and maybe what assets that they might consider parting with.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it's a seller's market this year.
Yeah, I think there's the way that teams are starting to kind of stack their contracts now and build things out for, yes, you want to win now, but you also want to win 2, 3, 4 years from now. We're not seeing necessarily as many big name players all hitting the market at the same time. And seeing that some of the guys that maybe could have been moved already got deals. I look at William Nylander securing the bag earlier this year.
Yes.
Because he's someone who, if he did not have a deal done by now, his name would be number one on every trade list, without a doubt. He got the deal done, and good for Toronto for figuring out a way to keep him.
I had that tiny sliver of hope he would make free agency and we would go for him.
I mean, Chicago could practically outbid anybody for him the way their roster is stacked up for.
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
Joel, I want to hear from you on this one first while you lead this one off. Teams who should consider and really probably will likely be sellers.
Yep. And you and I actually were in lockstep on picking at least 2 teams for this. I will talk about the Ottawa Senators.
Yep.
They should absolutely sell the damn farm. They are currently last in the Atlantic. And in the entire league. They are 28th, only
Yep. So 4 worse.
10 points. 10 points ahead of both us and San Jose.
Yeah,
It's bad. It's real
it's
bad.
bad, and I hate that the Wild are right in the mix there with them. They're still a few points ahead. There's a little bit of buffer, but Ottawa is the next team below Minnesota in the standings right now.
It's just how they have fallen. And it's funny, too, because, they were buyers just 2 years ago when they bought Alex DeBrincat from us. They signed.
They traded for Chychrun.
Traded for Chychrun. They signed Claude Giroux. I mean, it's kind of hilarious.
Even bringing in Tarasenko.
Exactly. Bringing in Tarasenko, which really, we talked about it live when that happened. That caught me off guard this offseason. I was like, yeah, Tarasenko's not going to re-sign in New York. It pretty much got confirmed. Cool. Where's he going to go? Ottawa? And it's funny you mention him because that's exactly who I could see them selling first.
Yeah, he is probably pretty high up, one of the top 2 or 3 wingers, I would think, that would be available and on the block.
Yeah, I mean, per the Athletic, earlier this week, or I think this week. Yeah, so earlier this week, actually 2 days ago. I lost my place. Hold on. No.
Now, the thing that does get tricky with Tarasenko, while you're looking that up,
no, I got it.
Tarasenko has a no-trade clause.
Exactly.
I would think that, especially in another contract year and running out of chances to go get another cup at 32 years old, getting out of Ottawa and getting to a contending team would be pretty important on the priority list.
Exactly. So here I found it. So yeah, per the Athletic. So a couple days ago, Steve Staios, I don't know how to say the general manager's name, but Staios, admitted that they have yet to have a conversation with Tarasenko about his future in Ottawa. They should expect it to happen at some point in the next couple of weeks. So definitely after the break. As you mentioned, like he's a UFA, obviously, and actually it's funny because in the Athletics article they bring up that wrinkle you just mentioned. So he's got that no trade clause, but that's the whole thing. Like if he wants to, I don't really know how many, which is crazy to say, I don't know how many more years he's got. So if he wants to secure the bag, so to speak, that would mean going to a contender, whatever contender, too. You can't be too picky with that one.
Ready for me to throw a weird one out there for you?
Yes.
Detroit Red Wings.
Wow.
There were some links to Tarasenko this offseason. Like the interest is clearly there. They have a need for another winger. If Detroit decides, hey, we want to buy him, we want to set the tone that for the next couple of years, our playoff window is opening up. We're going to go get Tarasenko now. I was just kind of looking around like who could go get him and it would make sense. That's a move where it would make sense. They've got their centers. They need some guys on the wing. Robbie Fabry is like their line 2 right wing right now. You put Tarasenko in on that spot opposite David Perron, who was his former Blues teammate.
Yep. And
that makes a lot of sense.
He's got another former teammate for only half a season in Patrick Kane there too.
Yep. So there's connections there. It makes some sense.
I like that. I didn't really think of where to put him. I just kind of was like, I think they can sell him. He's gonna want out. I think he's willing to waive it. And yeah, I mean, that's a good contender-ish to go to.
He'd also go back to New York if the Rangers, wanted to bring him back. But they also just let him go this offseason. So
yeah, why would the Rangers give up draft capital when they could have just kept him for dollars instead of crap?
Right, but then maybe, for example, you get Ottawa to retain half salary, so he still gets his $5 million cap hit, but you're only paying him $2.5 million.
Yeah, but you still got to think about re-signing him anyway. So you're literally back at the exact same scenario you were last year.
It's if you think that, for example, last year, you were getting something from him down the stretch, but he was kind of banged up. So
Yeah.
if that was a factor,
he was one of their best players down the
but
stretch.
he was, but like
And in the
even
playoffs.
if you think there's another gear that you can unlock and he's good to go, that's certainly an option.
I did love total sidebar. I did love that even they didn't even make it past the first round, but their best players in that playoff series were the two players that weren't even Rangers to start the season. Tarasenko and Kane were the best players for the Rangers in the playoffs. It's just, God, I love the irony. Now I want to hear yours. We got to talk about the other team because this is the team that really should sell everything.
We need to absolutely nuke, hard reset the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
They have had so many things go wrong and blow up in their face.
The final nail in the coffin was this afternoon.
Yeah, the Dylan Dubé thing, we're not going to get into that. We
talked
kind of
about it
unpacked
last
that
week.
a bit. Yeah, last week. So
you've seen the news. All you got to know
formally
is
charged today.
Exactly. So, and all the names we threw out there wasn't a coincidence.
Yep. They were all charged. So, but beyond that, Dubé situation aside, you've got you've had 3 coaches in the last 4 seasons. Since 2020 here, you've had 3 different head coaches come through the organization. Calgary absolutely lost the Matthew Tkachuk, Jonathan Huberdeau trade.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. Like it's a major close. L. Tried to recoup some value for a guy that wasn't going to resign there, but they've got nothing really in terms of meaningful production. Just spinning their tires with Mackenzie Weegar too. Going out and signing Nazem Kadri, that one blew up in their face. Letting Johnny Gaudreau walk for absolutely nothing, and then having to panic buy Kadri after that because you needed somebody. Now you're in a position where you're looking at losing Elias Lindholm. You're looking at losing Noah Hannafin. And by the way, adding to all of this, Dan Vladar, your backup goaltender, has been keeping Dustin Wolf in the minors. He's been the best goaltender in the minor leagues the last 2 seasons and really should have been playing in the NHL last year. He's proven that he's ready to make that jump and be a consistent NHL goalie. But you're handcuffed by Markstrom's contract. You're handcuffed by Dan Vladar's contract. And Brad Treliving isn't even there to deal with the worst of what all he was doing there. Calgary is an absolute mess. We've thrown Elias Lindholm's name out a bunch, and that we think he's going to set the market. Joel, I want to toss this to you because you've kind of teased an Elias Lindholm trade package here. Throw this one out there for me, the trade package you heard and what you think that might look like.
Mark, I want to hear you sound off in the comments because it was funny.
Here we go.
So it was definitely just a hypothetical, but I was listening to the What Chaos podcast. Listen to that podcast if you don't. It's fun. Pete Blackburn and I forgot the other guy's name, but they're both awesome. They are very much on board with, and I think this is a team we didn't really mention who could be a buyer too, and that'd be Boston. I think that would make sense for them to be a little bit of a buyer. And Elias Lindholm, like you said, he is kind of like a David Krejci style player. Boston could jump out and try and trade for Lindholm, and the package, they were throwing out hypothetical packages, and one of them.
We got to be really careful with the phrase throwing out packages.
All right, Dan.
Joey's here.
Joey's throwing out his package.
That's how we're going to segue out of that one.
Did you
so the trade package that was proposed. What do we got?
Joey's throwing out his package in the comments. We're good. Now, do that. You might get back.
Oh boy.
It was, I think, a first rounder. It's going to be a late first rounder, obviously.
Yep.
And Matty Patois. How do you say his last name?
Patra.
Patra. Matt Patra. Matt Patra and a first rounder for Elias Lindholm. It seems like a lot.
It does, but Boston is under so much pressure to win.
Especially
have been
now
for a while.
Yeah, and especially now that they didn't have the big fall off the cliff in a fiery car like we thought they were going to have this year.
You set the record for points in a season and wins in a season in the first round last year. You have a 3-1 series lead in the first round. You blow it.
Yep.
Boston is under incredible pressure to win now.
It's interesting, right? It's a lot, but it's interesting, right?
Move. It really is.
I was very intrigued by
that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested. Oh, here we go. Mark, a 2050. What?
Yeah, 2050. That's supposed to be 2025.
2020. Yeah, 2025 first round. Matt Patois. Thank you. And Trent Frederick. Hell no to that deal. Way too much for Lindholm. I mean, that's kind of what I expected. Like, that's why I wanted to hear an actual Bruins fan's take on that. Because it's like, when I heard it, I'm like, that's a lot. But as a non-Bruins fan, like, I could see it. But that's a total, like, win now move. And, well, bye, Patra. Like, you're clearly, our top rookie right now. But we want to cut now, so we'll see you.
I think the only thing that could make Matt Patra expendable is if Fabian Lysell is going to be your guy coming through the next couple of years. And right. I'm all in on Fabian Lysell. I think he's going to be a very, very good player for Boston. Boston does not have the first rounder this year. There's a conditional pick with that one. So they've already moved this year's first, thus the need for it to be a 2025. And to Mark's point here as well, hang on, StreamYard's messing with me. The Bruins need to replenish their prospect pool. Yeah, they've had a couple of draft misses, and they've had a couple of moving their first round picks. So they got to get some guys coming through here. So I can understand wanting to hold Patra, wanting to, and Mark saying Bruins are thin in center.
So that was kind of
myself being a wing.
That was partially the motivation for the Lindholm trade talks, just because they are thin in center. If you could get it done without spending them.
Yeah, my point was I think Patra it could end up playing wing long term. That's why I thought that Lysell being the right wing would be somewhat of a natural fit. But if Patra is going to stay at center, you need him to be your guy. That's more what I was getting at, Mark. So
and I'm with you. Personally, I wouldn't trade him. I mean, he looks really good. That's a massive hit because he was. What round did they take him?
What round did they take Patra, or what round did they
Patra? He was a first rounder, right?
Patra was second round. He was second round, 54th overall in 2022.
I mean, he's looking like a first rounder, so it's Now this is
and that's what you need too when you're replenishing the pool. You need to find those guys in the later rounds that
you can't always
are going to be your guys.
Exactly. And Mateo is finally chiming in, and this is a good segue into talking about our own teams.
Yeah.
He thinks the Wild should trade for
Arthur Kaliev.
Yep.
Yeah, Arthur Kaliev, somebody that I think Wild fans were, even at the time of the draft, he went 33rd overall in 2019. There were Wild fans who wanted him when they picked it. I think it was 22nd or 24th that year. See how good my draft memory is here. Actually, no, they picked earlier than that. That was 12th. That was the Boldy year. So I was thinking later than that.
Well, that's
I'm glad they ended up with Boldy over Kaliev based on their current production. But there's a bit of a different guy here from the LA Kings that I thought if the Wild were going to go out and buy, that this would be the guy to go out and get. And I threw this out to Seth Topal over with Locked On Wild, that Andreas Englund from the Kings would be the guy that I would be in on. He's averaging 13 minutes a night, and he leads the Kings in hits. He very much fits the profile of what Bill Guerin wants in building an organization. He's bounced around the NHL a little bit. In fact, he was briefly with your Chicago Blackhawks for a hot second.
Who'd you say?
Andreas Englund.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Yes. He is somebody who I think would be a very good fit for the Wild if they were to decide to try and bring someone in and take a swing at things. He's also only on a $1 million AAV for this year and next. So knowing that the Wild are going to have $15 million dead cap next year too, he buys you some more time, knowing that Goligoski gone, Merrill gone. Very likely you're looking at least 2, if not 3 openings in your top 7 defensemen for next year. So if I'm the Wild, I know there's a need there. If I can get someone on the cheap now, especially before free agency, before that opens everything back up, he's a name that I've got my eye on. Certainly wouldn't be opposed to Arthur Kaliev either. Like, that guy, all he does is shoot the puck when he's on the ice, and the Wild needs someone to shoot from the wing.
Could I interest you in a Jared Tenorti?
Let me think. No.
Come on.
How about no?
Come on.
If I get Tenorti, can I get one lightly used Connor Bedard in with that trade as well? Yeah.
Remember that car I talked about driving off a cliff? Yeah, go get in it. Yeah. But speaking of you guys at the deadline, I did read too. I was reading an Athletic article earlier about, all the, what teams would move either player and or pick. Mm-hmm. And the Athletic called out Pat Maroon for you guys to move him.
I could see Pat Maroon if things are going as bad as they've gone, and my God, have they gone bad. Losing 3-2 to Nashville the other night was bad. Losing 3-2 to the Ducks on Hockey Day, Minnesota, I mean, that was unforgivable, honestly. You've got a team that you're 13 points clear of in the standings at the halfway point of the season. Celebrating Hockey Day, Minnesota, you're in your own barn, you have a lead, and you blow that game. That to me tells me that the Wild don't have the mental toughness to get back into things this year. They may not have the physical toughness to get back into it this year. Like, they're done. That to me was my sign that this team has checked out and was already thinking about the All-Star break.
You are only 7 points out of either wild card spot right now, but I guess only is kind of relative.
But you look at the goaltending play this year that has not been good. You look at
I know. Half the reason my fantasy team sucks.
You look at the laundry list of injuries that this team has, most notably Jared Spurgeon done for the year. That's a huge, huge loss. And as good as Matt Boldy has played, the rest of the lineup hasn't been able to put it together. I think they've just had too many injuries here to sustain and get back into things, especially losing Spurgeon. Like, that kills an already thin defense group. That this team with Goligoski and Merrill as the third pairing is not making the playoffs. Full stop. They're just not. That is probably the worst third pairing in the league. It's so painful to watch those two on the ice at the same time. I cannot see a scenario where, even knowing you've got an easier second half of the season schedule-wise, that this team gets back into it. I don't think they're built to be competitive this year, and that's okay. They're playing with 15 mil in dead cap. No one is expecting them to go be a cup favorite. And I don't want them to panic buy, make a move to limp into the playoffs as an 8 seed, get broomed out, and miss your shot at getting a top 10, if not even top 5 draft pick. They're 6th right
now. Is there anyone like, can you pull? I mean, obviously we did a full rebuild. I'm not saying that, but could you pull something that like Kyle Davidson pulled in the 2022 draft, where you have some players and assets you could trade to get yourself higher into the first round? I say higher because you're already in the first round. We weren't in the first round at all.
I don't see any players right now that the Wild could comfortably move that would fetch a first round pick on a return. Shy of moving Boldy or Kaprizov, which they're not doing.
Or Rossi. You're not going to do that.
Or Rossi, yeah, which isn't happening either because Rossi is really
literally your future
this year. Right. Those are the guys that you're building around the rest of the way. I mean, could you get a second round pick for Ryan Hartman? Even that's a stretch given how he's played this year. So many of the Wild players that are guys that you could potentially be moving.
Hear me out.
I mean, realistically, the only guy for sure that I think absolutely will be moved at the deadline would be Brandon Duhaime. And he would, I think, fetch the biggest return based on how he's played this year. You know, maybe you're lucky enough to get a third for Maroon. Maybe you're lucky enough to get a fourth for Zach Bogosian, who has a modified no trade clause. There's not a lot going right for the Wild. And the worst thing is, if they try and sell, they're selling when the value is low. That's the most frustrating part of things for the Wild this year. So I'm not expecting much. If Guerin is able to walk out of this trade deadline and get a draft pick that is 4th round or higher with how this roster has played, I'll be impressed, frankly. I really, you talked about the sellers market. The Wild are clearly sellers. But if you're going to be a seller, you have to have something worth selling. And based on how the Wild have performed in this first half, they really don't have someone worth selling.Maybe Fleury. I can give you a Fleury if you want Fleury to go for one more cup run. But Fleury has said he doesn't want to leave Minnesota. And I think he would.
Because I'm pretty sure his family is still here.
His family is in Minnesota now. They're in Minnesota. They've moved. They've moved several times over the last couple of years. The kids are in school. They don't want to pick up and move. Fleury doesn't want that. He's got his cups. Like, he doesn't want to move.
He's retiring in a year, if not this year. Or 2 years.
He's going to sign a 1-day contract. He's going to retire as a Penguin. We know that that's coming.
He's going to retire a Blackhawk.
Yeah, okay. He's going to retire with Vegas Golden Knight. No, he's not.
All right, not. Here we go. Toronto trades for Kaprizov, Mitch Marner, and two firsts.
I take that deal in a heartbeat.
See, there you go. I got you.
I take that deal in a heartbeat.
See,
holy smokes!
There you go. I got you.
Okay, I know that that's not remotely realistic.
You didn't even hesitate.
The dopamine hit I got from I have a Kaprizov jersey. I bought his reverse retro before he played a single game in Minnesota. Before he played one game, I bought his jersey because I knew he was going to be that good. I would give him up for Marner and 2 firsts in a heartbeat.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of selling everything.
Yeah, and the Blackhawks, we kind of teased this earlier in the show. The Blackhawks have 4 current current forwards who are 1 healthy and 2 signed for next season. That is it. They have 4. Yes, you still have some guys who are on the injured list. Taylor Hall, Athanasiou, of course, Bedard. Those are your guys that are signed for next year and injured.
Who?
But other than that,
who'd you say? I didn't hear you.
This Connor Bedard guy,
Bednard. How Travis Kelce says it. Connor
Better Edge, Golf. Oh my God, betting platform. I just whiffed that.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Yeah. And oh boy, Mark right here. Krill could have been a Bruin. Yeah, thanks for that draft pick, by the way. That 5th round pick we used to take the Breeze of. Thanks, thanks a lot for that one.
Yeah. So yeah.
Mhm.
What should we be doing? Well, I thought we'd be selling whatever we could. Now it's a little hard because half the roster is injured. And now they're the biggest pieces that we thought might be trade chips, kinda, are all just got 2-year extensions. We just signed Jason Dickinson to a 2-year contract. Peter Mrazek got another 2-year extension, and then I don't think we were ever going to trade Nick Foligno, but he just got a 2-year extension. So those were the 3 kind of early season speculatory like trade deadline for us. Taylor Hall as well, but I mean we have another year of him. He's out for the season. That's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, just we're gonna get as much draft capital as we can. I think the biggest thing, he's injured right now, but my guess would, and actually slight hope, he's a great guy. He's played enough for us. He just does not have it anymore. He's 35 and he's not part of this future. Tyler Johnson, I think, should probably be on the move around the trade deadline. Thank Boston for what?
For Taylor Hall.
Oh yeah, hey, I loved the move. It just sucks that he got hurt. Hopefully next season he doesn't get hurt. I mean, I'm assuming we'll end up trading him next season at the deadline, unless he just kind of something gets worked out and he's not expensive and he just wants to stay here until he retires, type of thing.
Chemistry's there with Bedard too. I mean, that's
exactly, the chemistry's there with Bedard. And if you're going to tell me that our kind of grizzled vets to really break in all the kids, not just Bedard, but like the guys that had yet to come up, like Frank Nazer or Oliver Moore, just to name a couple, and you have the veterans in the room of Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno, sign me up all day. Sign me up. But
they're going to have to move one of those guys to wing.
Who? Oh,
like Bedard, Nazar, Moore. At least one of those guys is moving to the wing. It's probably Oliver Moore.
Probably Oliver Moore, just because of his speed.
He's so fast. Like, he could be so deadly on the wing.
All the kids.
But he's so good as a center too. Like,
all the kids are killing it in all their respective leagues, whether it's college, junior leagues, or even in the AHL. Ethan Del Mastro is going to the AHL All-Star game, so that's amazing. Hopefully he's Baby Siebes, as we're calling him here.
Yeah, future is bright for Chicago,
but we still got to wait a little bit.
2 years, it's going to look rough.
Yeah, well,
those guys to show up.
This year is
but
worse.
You knew that going in too.
Exactly. This year looks worse than last year, which is, I'm saying, due in part. Do you know we have now lost 20 road games in a row?
You teased that on last week's show.
That's when it was about to be 18, and I said it was going to be 18. It was 18. We then proceeded to lose the next 2 over that weekend.
Yeah.
Which I also kind of saw coming. So we have lost 20 road games in a row. And the last time we won a road game, the Texas Rangers were hoisting the World Series trophy.
Wow, that'll put it into perspective for you.
But so I think / hope, again, nothing against Tyler Johnson, but I think he's going to be one of the few players he's injured right now. But I think in here, like, I got a statement per Mark Lazarus.
Love
Laz. I'm sorry. Not Laz. I have a statement.
Less interested.
Well, I will say, Laz is great.
Laz is great.
But he's injured at the moment, but like he'll be back way before the deadline. And like I think you can still try and sell his championship experience, from his Tampa Bay days. He just, like, you put him on a contender's third line, it's got to be third or fourth line, because his legs are just not there anymore. He used to be very fast at 35. Like, watching him before he got hurt here, like, he just does not have it anymore.
I seem to remember when the Blackhawks signed him, you saying that you thought that he could make the Blackhawks fringe playoff contenders.
When did I say that?
Like once
that was
going into the year once they had signed Tyler Johnson.
That was before we like pulled the trigger on rebuilding, because he's been here for like 3 years now.
It was one of our early episodes of this show. It was that you thought Tyler Johnson was going to make the Blackhawks.
Because at the time we had to brink it. We had what I thought would be a decent Kirby Doc. Like we had. There were pieces. I think we hadn't even signed Seth Jones yet, had we? I don't even think we'd signed Seth Jones yet. It just, I don't know, man.
I will say this. The difference right now between our two organizations is that the Hawks recognized they needed a long-term rebuild. They knew the window wasn't open, and they addressed it appropriately. They knew
Kane is
out, Taves out, Host is out, Crawford's out, Keith out, Seabrook out. Like that whole core was gone. They knew that was coming, and they were able to get themselves in a position to rebuild and go through some bad years, but get some great draft talent along the way, put yourself in a good spot. The Wild have known for a couple of years now that with the Parise Suter buyouts, the dead cap years were going to be bad.
Right.
They knew that, but they did nothing to set themselves up for success. They extended guys who really you didn't need to extend, who are also going to block roster spots from your young guys that you're expecting to be competing when the window is back open again. You know, Freddie Gaudreau got a 5-year extension. Foligno got a multi-year extension. Hartman got a multi-year extension. And beyond the end of the buyout period, it's a tough look, and it's a really tough spot to be in for the Wild right now, knowing that that's where things are at. And I get it. A lot can change in the season plus between now and the end of the worst years of the buyouts. But the expectation is when the buyouts are up, this Wild team is going to be competing for a championship. It's not just, can we get to the playoffs? It's, you're a top 2 team in your division. You are making it to at least the conference finals. Like, that is the expectation, knowing what these buyouts are bringing. This Wild team right now, if you tell me this team in 2 years is going to the Western Conference Finals, I'd call you crazy, just looking at where they're at right now.
I mean, I would agree. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we identified it. Oh yeah, the other piece, the Mark Lazarus piece I was talking about. So
yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on that one.
No. I was just gonna say. So the other player too that he mentions would be Colin Blackwell. You don't know who that is, but
I'm vaguely familiar. I'm not familiar with this game. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but
he plays hard. He's pretty decent. I mean, part of it is because of the Tyler Johnson injury. Exactly. Like, it's part of the Tyler Johnson injury. So Laz goes on to say, like, in the past couple of weeks, the Hawks have given 2-year extensions to who I already mentioned, Mrazek, Dickinson, and Foligno. Tyler Johnson was going to be appealing look, but with his injury, we'll see what happens. So Colin Blackwell might not be the most exciting name at the deadline, but he's a high motor player who could be a nice depth piece at a very low cost for a contender, per Mark Lazarus of the Athletic. So I agree. And of the kind of breakout, chippier kind of no-name players we've seen, at least on our end on the Hawks, break out a little bit. Jason Dickinson got his contract extension as a result of how much he broke out this year, at least for us. Blackwell's been another solid player. To me, that's kind of like if we trade him, it'll be hopefully maybe something like a Sam Lafferty deal that we did with Toronto. He's kind of like a Sam Lafferty player. So I could see that happening. It'd be nice to keep some of those guys, but with so many guys in the farm system that are going to start coming up here over the next couple of seasons here, as early as next season, like, you're not going to have room for the players that are currently up here right now. So
let me run this by you. I'm going to go through, because we got a little bit of time here yet. I'm going to run through the Hawks players on expiring deals and you give me just a one-word yes or no, are they on this Hawks team next year or not? Because this
just
will also
next
help.
year or the future when we're good?
Just next year.
Oh, okay.
This could be short term. This could be long term. It just a yes or no.
Okay.
Let me ask it this way: on roster, trade bait, leaving in free agency. Those are the three options. On roster, trade bait, leaving in free agency.
Okay.
Colin Blackwell, you just mentioned. Trade bait.
Yeah, I think trade bait right now.
Rem Pitlick.
Probably trade bait because we only really traded for him because we needed players.
I think he's back for one more, but he could be trade bait next year.
I don't know his contract situation.
Expiring at the end of
right,
this
it's
year.
expiring.
So these are all expiring at the end of this year. I think he gets one more just because you so recently traded for him.
I was kind of leaning that way too. Yeah, on roster.
Okay. This one's a layup. Lucas Reichel.
That's not a layup anymore.
Oh.
It's not. That was a talk. CHGO Blackhawks podcast was talking about it. I'm going to listen to it more in depth.
Bridge deal, though.
I'm going to say on roster that he's 21 years old. I don't think he'd give up on him yet.
Mackenzie Entwistle.
On roster.
Reese Johnson.
What was the third option again? On roster, trade bait.
On roster, trade bait, leaving in free agency.
Oh. I actually wouldn't be surprised.
He is restricted free agent.
You know what? On roster.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Joey Anderson, restricted.
Probably leaving.
Zach Sanford.
Leaving.
Boris Kachuk, restricted.
I'd like to say on roster. I think I'm speaking with my heart on that one, but on roster.
Taylor Radish.
That's a tough one, actually. I'm gonna say
he is restricted.
I'm gonna say trade bait.
Okay. Jared Snorty.
Jesus, please, God, let him be gone. But actually, not even like jokes aside, yeah, he's gone.
Here we go. We'll get you another one guaranteed on roster next year. Alex Vlasic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. on roster for a long time.
Isaac Phillips.
So that's been interesting. That was talked about a little bit. I don't actually know. I would like to see him on roster, but the problem is now becoming like I don't know if like Richardson and everyone up there thinks as highly of him as the fans do, and obviously they know way more than we do.
Mm-hmm.
He's played well, but I'm wondering if that good play leads to trade bait, and he's restricted, right?
He is restricted, yes.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go out on a limb and say trade bait, even though I'd like to say on roster.
Jacob Magna.
Free agency.
And then we got three more here. These are all unrestricted. Two of them have modified no trade clauses. Tyler Johnson, you mentioned he'd be back before the end of the year.
I'm thinking trade bait. Absolute. Well, whatever the hell we can get for him, trade bait.
Nikita Zaitsev, is he done for the year or is he?
I don't think he's officially done for the year. So
okay. But is he done until the trade deadline? That's the real kicker.
I'm not sure.
According to Puckpedia, return February 7th, so he could be back. That's his expected return, but I feel like you would have heard by now if he was getting close. Might still be a couple more weeks, but sounds like back before deadline.
Yeah, so
potential trade bait?
It's trade bait or free agency, one of the two.
Okay. And then last one, and this is the one that intrigues me the most. Anthony Beauvillier.
Whoa. Oh yeah, that's tough. He's unrestricted.
26 years old, unrestricted free agent, can play either wing. He's the definition of a streaky player.
Yeah.
Playoff Bo is unmatched. But regular season Bo can be rough.
We gotta hit the cap floor. So I would be okay and wouldn't be surprised if he's on roster, but it's still probably gonna depend on the type of deal, and he's probably the type of player that's gonna want to go test free agency and get a bag from someone who's willing to give him the bag. And on more than just like a year or two.
He's also expected back during this season. It looks like Feb 7 is the same listed potential return date.
Yeah, so
let's rattle through the picks segment here real quick. We'll get our picks in. Don't have to go super in depth. I had a just god awful week last week.
I'm getting it together, man. I was 4-1.
You were 3-2 last week.
That's right.
But still a winning record. I was at 98 wins going into last week, and I came away with one freaking win.
Just can't
I blame.
Hey,
I blame your Blackhawks because I picked them.
Hey, man. Hey, I told you.
You did tell me, but I still blame them. I don't blame you because you tried to lead me back on the path of righteousness.
You're damn right I did.
and I, like a lamb to the slaughter, sprinted into my own destruction. So let's get into things here. We talked about both of these clubs tonight. Ottawa Senators, Detroit Red Wings. Detroit at home, -134. Ottawa on the road, +112. Joel, who you got in that one?
I don't even need to think about it. Red Wings.
Yeah, I'm going Red Wings too.
That's easy.
Los Angeles Kings really have been floundering lately.
Yes,
but
they have.
Needing some momentum to build on before the All-Star break. -120 on the road at the Nashville Predators, +100. Joel, who you got in that one?
I was a little tempted just at the value to maybe take Nashville. But looking at LA's road record versus Nashville's home record, I got to go with LA. LA is 14-6-4 on the road, and Nashville is 13-12 at home. And Nashville's so very just meh.
Kings have 2 wins in their last 10 games. I need my cup winners to get it together. That's the team I picked at the beginning of the year. They got to figure it out.
They got to get right.
Kings. Get right game.
Yep.
And finally, the San Jose Sharks. God, this one's going to be a clunker.
What a riveting matchup this is.
At the Anaheim Ducks, -176.
I mean, as bad as the Hawks are, and I know the standings say we are worse, the Sharks are abysmal hot garbage. And the day I bet on them is the day I wear a Blues jersey. So, yeah, no. Give me the Ducks.
I wish I'd gone first on this one just to try and make you do something different so that we didn't pick 3 of the same.
Smart pick. I'm going 3-0 this week. I'm calling my shot. Calling the shot. I'm so confident about it, too. I might toss a little parlay.
Scared money don't make money. I'm going to take the Ducks.
See.
I got to do it. I can't bet on the literal worst team in the league.
You can't.
At plus money on the road.
You can't. Now, watch them win, but that's because the Ducks
Of course, because hockey is dumb and weird. And
hockey is dumb. We didn't even talk about John.
Here's what throws me, though. The Anaheim Ducks, 7-17-1 at home this year, 10-13-1 on the road. So, yeah, the Sharks have been bad all year. The Ducks have a worse home record than the Sharks. That's the only thing I can think of for, like, why you might want to consider taking the Sharks, but Ducks.
Ducks.
Both on the Ducks, both on the Kings. Both on the
Both
Red
on the
Wings.
Red Wings. Yeah, we went.
No, nobody at plus money tomorrow.
Nope. I can't. It's the easy pick, but it's just it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, the only way I can see anything different happening is because it's the day before the All-Star break, and those teams that are just far better than the others just kind of are like, we don't really care. Like we're about to go on a week-long vacation. Like,
yeah, San Jose is very much in the play like weenie for Celebrini mode at this point.
Sorry, he's ours.
Yeah, probably. I've kind of already resigned myself to the fact that he's going to be a Blackhawk.
Because
if at this point that doesn't happen, it will be a pleasant surprise. If I go into it with the expectation he's going to be there, it will lessen the disappointment when the inevitable happens.
Expect disappointment, and you'll never be disappointed. Quote Spider-Man.
Nothing, and yet I'm still let down.
So, look, you at one point wanted me to bet you $100 that the Hawks would pick in the top 2, but that was before 8 of our original starting 12 got decimated by injury and 1 got kicked off the team.
Yeah.
So
that's how confident I was even before all of that happened.
If none of that happened, we wouldn't be in this position.
If none of that happened, I still think you would be getting Celebrini next year.
No.
Yes,
there's no way, because we would be. I am firmly in belief that if we didn't have all these injuries, if Bedard was still here healthy, if Taylor Hall never got hurt, if no one ever got hurt, I'll even give you the Corey Perry thing was clearly unavoidable. So get him out of here. Fine. Get Corey Perry out of here.
Let's walk back. Clearly unavoidable, clearly unforeseeable. Sure,
unforeseeable.
I'll give you that one. Unavoidable. It sounds like from whatever happened, it sounds like Corey Perry could have done something to avoid whatever it was that happened.
Based on the help he had to
walk
get,
that one back.
Fine, whatever. You know what I meant. So I'll even give you we lose Corey Perry, but we keep everybody else. We are. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're ahead of you.
Oh, maybe. But that doesn't mean that Chicago's not winning the draft lottery anyway.
4 or 5 spots from the bottom? No way.
Yep.
No.
We've gone over this. The league wants and needs Colorado to be good.
Mark's trying to manifest Cole Iserman kind of going to the Bruins. Sorry, Mark. He's going to be a Blackhawk too. Him and Celebrini are going to be Blackhawks somehow.
Well, if the Wild decide to sell their first-round pick this year for David Pastrnak, then maybe that's the only way you get into draft position, I think.
Would you do that?
Or you know what? I told you I was going to throw out a name earlier of a trade target, and then I never actually named this player as a player to keep an eye on at the trade deadline.
Who?
This is going to blow your mind. You ready for this?
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
Andrei Kuzmenko. He's been linked to. Okay. I was like, he's been linked to the Hawks. That's what I was trying to say. We would take him on as a salary dump. That's how Vancouver can get that done. Anyway. Bigger name?
Mm-hmm.
What conference?
Western.
Brock Faber?
No. Not Brock Faber. No. That is our future captain. You hush your mouth. Take my future captain's name
I'll manifest
out your
that.
mouth.
I'll manifest that. How about I give you Jared Tenorti, Brock Faber, 1-for-1? How's that sound?
I will slap you so hard.
I will strike you.
You want to get striked?
Defenseman or forward?
Forward. Center/winger, but primarily center.
Older, younger, middle?
Younger.
Brock Besser?
Trevor Zegras.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a lot of that. Most of it's from a bunch of morons on Twitter. None of it has been from an actual legit source, at least that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I've definitely seen his name tossed around.
I've talked with our resident Ducks expert, Tim Van Stratton,
about I'll trust
Trevor
him,
Zegras and just kind of what, from an organizational standpoint, he's been good, but he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
There is some talk that, especially with knowing that he's going to want a long-term deal and more than what probably the Ducks are willing to pay short-term, knowing that they've probably got their two centers on the way between Mason McTavish and Leo Carlson, knowing that they just got Cutter Gauthier to slide in on that wing spot. Troy Terry is in your mix, and he's locked up long-term. There may not legitimately be a spot in the top 6 for Trevor Zegras. So, Mark, you're looking at some guys that might be filling in that center spot for the Bruins. Trevor Zegras.
How much would he go
Send
for?
him back to Boston where he played his college puck.
What would he go for, though?
A haul of draft picks.
Speaking of, there you go. Yeah, he did go.
Yeah, right on cue.
He did go to BU. So,
So it's a name that's worth throwing out there and keeping an eye on. Do the Ducks move on from Trevor Zegras?
I like that idea. Like I said, I've seen it tossed around. I just kind of didn't. It was never from a legit source. So now that I hear Tim talking about it, now I can actually think that there could be some traction.
I don't know that there's necessarily traction.
Not traction, but it's something that's being talked about, not just by morons trying to throw stupid trades out there on Twitter.
I would think teams have to at least be calling to see what the interest is and what the going rate would be. Because obviously when Zegras is on his game, he's one of the most electric players in this league to watch.
You got to imagine a first rounder is absolutely the minimum.
A first rounder is the yes and
right
of the deal.
Right.
It's okay. First round pick. Yes and what else?
Jared.
Because it's not going to be just a single. I don't
want to give up. I'm not giving up
this year's first round pick from Chicago. That might be enough. That might be enough.
To
throw in Jared Snowden and get a deal.
What do you mean? What do you mean might be enough? If it's first or second overall, it's Anaheim is clicking deal.
Yeah.
Without saying a word.
Okay, but then let's look again at what that does for organizational center depth. Connor Bedard, Trevor Zegras, Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore, Macklin Celebrini. Except you're not getting Celebrini because you sent him
Celebrini because we sent the first overall. Yeah. Joel trying to get rid of Tenorti like a cheap bowl of polka or poke. Either way, I would get rid of Jared Tenorti for a bag of pucks, and not like new pucks, like chipped, disgusting, like horribly used pucks.
The blue foam ones you use for chuck a puck.
That's fine. Give me all the dude. I would give Jared Tenorti away for all the sweaty hats thrown on the ice for a hat trick.
Yikes! That bad.
So, Dan.
On that note, go ahead.
We haven't done something in a while that I have prepared.
Oh boy, I was unprepared for you to even do this. So,
I have a 2 minutes. I have a 2 minutes for roughing.
Boom! Let's do it.
And everyone collectively cheers. Dan, if you would be so kind as to put 2 minutes on the clock.
You know how long it's been since I put 2 minutes on the clock for you? This might be our first
on the stream. Don't tempt me with a good time, Mark. I'll do it.
This
I don't have a bond, but
our first 2 minutes for roughing of 2024.
It absolutely is.
So it would have been pre-Christmas. We might be getting back as far as Thanksgiving. This might be our first in like 2 months.
More than that. We haven't done this since like the beginning of the season.
Yeah, we did it a couple of times early on, but we did kind of put it on hold for a while.
Right. Just because there wasn't much to be pissed about.
2 minutes for roughing. Count you in here. 3, 2, 1, go.
So, as we all know, we now have a Super Bowl matchup. The Chiefs versus the 49ers. Yes, the Lions choked it away, and it would have been really fun to see the Lions in the Super Bowl. And yeah, it would have been cool to see a lot of the Lamar Jackson haters get shut up and see him in the Super Bowl. However, I am sick and tired of seeing all the hatred and I quote, stupid tweets from people. This is the absolute worst case scenario of a Super Bowl. This sucks. I want them both to lose. I hate this because it's not what I wanted. I'm angry. Listen to me. The two best teams are in the Super Bowl. You have the best quarterback we have ever fucking seen. And yes, he will be better than Tom Brady when it is all said and done. Patrick
You just lost
Mahomes.
Mark.
I'm sorry, Mark. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the GOAT when it's all said and done. You have two of the best head coaches, mind-wise and just coaching-wise in general, in the game, in Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan going at it. You have one of the league's best defenses in the 49ers going up against one of the league's best offenses in the Chiefs. Yeah, you got the Taylor Swift effect. You got a bunch of publicity. You got Travis Kelce, who's one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. Sorry, he's going to be better than Gronk when it's all said and done, too. Mark just hates me right now.
No, he doesn't. You're good. He says not a football guy. So,
oh, okay. So
25 seconds.
I'm so sick of the bullshit of this is the worst matchup. This game is going to be so fun. And just because your team didn't make it, and quite frankly, you shouldn't be bitching if you didn't have a team in this playoff run that actually got knocked out by either of these teams anyway. I didn't. Dan didn't. If you have a team that got knocked out, fine. I can see you hating on it. But don't sit there and say it's going to be a bad game when it's going to be epic because of everything I just said. Shut the fuck up and quit your bitching. Whoa. Hold on, Joey. Mahomes will be better than Brady. Jordan will always be the GOAT. Go on, Dan.
I mean, he's not, though.
Hold on a second. He is. Don't. This is an off-season topic that we can do, and we'll call it outside hockey or some shit. And also, Joey does have a point. It should be 13 minutes for Taylor Swift. I am our resident Swiftie of the show, so.
That's true. It's not that I don't like Taylor Swift.
You're dead.
I do.
2 minutes for roughing.
I do enjoy Taylor Swift's music. I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie, but I do enjoy her music.
I could do a 2 minutes for roughing on all the people hating on her in the NFL stuff, too. You know what? I'll save that for next week.
I think it's really funny, all of the people who are like trying so hard to pull together all the strings of how Taylor Swift is this master manipulator and how everything comes back to number 13.
You're not going to understand this reference, but she's a mastermind. It's a song.
But like people are like, let's see what we're.
Well, there was one that said like the NFL is going to run back the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and she's only dating Travis Kelce to then break his heart, so the Chiefs would lose the Super Bowl to the Eagles because she was an Eagles fan because she was from she used to live in Philadelphia. Or whatever.
What Super Bowl number are we on this year? I believe it is Super Bowl 58.
Yeah.
5 plus 8 is 13.
Oh my God! I didn't even realize.
Yep. What's 100 minus? What's 100 minus 13?
What?
What's 100 minus 13?
87.
What number does Travis Kelce wear?
Also,
see, like pulling the strings on the conspiracy theory. We're there. We're at that point. Oh, goodness.
Is the moon in the age of Aquarius? I don't know.
Is the moon in the 7th house and Jupiter has aligned with Mars? I will pull up that age of Aquarius reference for you.
The dawning. Also, Mateo, right there with me. Love cheering for the heel. Go Chiefs. I'm with you. I'm cheering for the Roman Reigns in this case for any wrestling fans out there.
It's amazing how much people want to root for someone to win, but then get mad when they start winning too much.
See, and that's what I'm saying.
It's like, so like if you want great football, this matchup is great football. This is the best of what the NFL has to offer.
People that hate the Super Bowl have never been fans of wrestling. Exactly. Like people are sitting here that don't want Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns too. I want that very badly. Only in that case, I want Cody Rhodes to win. Cody Rhodes is the new John Cena of the current era. Anyway, that's just it. Like, yes, admittedly, I got sick of the Patriots run, but that's because those teams weren't really ever likable. They had the 2 cheating scandals. Brady after he left was better, but for a certain time, he was kind of just Not the most
He was
likable
unlikable
dude.
for a while, but he was still good.
Exactly. And then when he left, he became
Mhm.
super likable and he just like became really chill about
Yeah.
stuff. Like
His
probably because
biggest
he had the
problem was
success.
Peyton Manning oozed charisma. Like, that was his big problem.
Right. And
But then
like,
he kept playing well, and Peyton had retired at that point,
yeah,
and people were like, "Oh, Brady's actually kind of likable."
exactly. And like, so I rooted for him to get that 7th ring with Tampa. Like I was excited. That was fun. But like, that's the thing with the Chiefs. This is, again, it's maybe call it, I guess, call us old. I don't think this is an old thing to say. I'm just, when you get so into a sport, like it's fun watching a dynasty. And what the
Yeah.
Chiefs are doing too are unprecedented. He has a chance to get his 3rd ring before Brady got his 3rd ring. Mahomes, I mean, and
Mhm.
it's just I love it. I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I'm not going to be mad if the 49ers win. Like 49ers have a lot of likable dudes too. George Kittle is one of my favorite players in the league that isn't a Bear, because he's also a Bears fan. I think he grew up here actually, but
Went to Iowa too.
yep. Yeah, so there you go. HP, shout out Iowa. So
Yeah,
like
HP surprisingly absent from the show tonight. He's got to be.
yeah, what the fuck,
on the road.
HP?
But yeah, he told us before the game, like he texted, he's like, "I'm happy either way because I get an Iowa tight end playing in the Super Bowl,
See,
representing the NFC. Because either
so
got Kittle or Sam Laporta."
so that's my thing. This game's going to be fun as all hell. And real quick, Mateo recently converted back to wrestling because of the return of Chicago's King, CM Punk, who just tore his tricep in.
Hey, look at that. CM Punk is Chicago's king. Already, he forgot about Jordan. He can't be the GOAT.
No, not GOAT.
Nope. That's it. That's the note we're ending the show on.
Look, no. We
nope.
gotta.
That's it. Nope.
No.
Ending the show on that note. Thanks
Jordan
everybody for tuning
you
in.
Just overwrote a comment from one of our super fans. Mark, bash this man.
But you know why I did it? For the bit.
Fuck
I
the
did
bit.
it for
Jordan's
the
the GOAT.
We're gonna put the comment back up on the screen. I had to
Were
get you
you?
going. I had to get you going for the bit.
You had, yeah, okay, that's fair.
Here we go. Let's get Mark's comment up here.
The cheating bullshit and drama between the Pats and the commish was enough for me to walk away from the sport. Never like so. Yeah, I mean, I get it.
I mean, this NHL season has been a bit of a soap opera.
Come
in
on,
some
he'll be
ways.
back next week. We love it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I don't know. I'm excited for the Super Bowl.
Me too. Thanks to everybody who tuned in throughout the show tonight. We had a ton of comments coming through again. As a reminder, we are live Tuesdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Next show will be next Tuesday. How about that? Back-to-back Tuesday shows. We're running this thing somewhat on an actual schedule now.
Oh, no, actually, no, I'm joking.
I did it for strike you.
I did it for the bit.
Do you want to get striked?
Yes.
Yeah, I need you to watch
that
particular episode of Letterkenny is so good. Not that they aren't pretty much usually good, but that one in particular is fantastic. So we'll see you back here then. As a reminder, you can catch us on demand on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Go over and hit the like, give us a 5-star rating. We like to think of ourselves as a 5-star podcast with a 5-star audience. We are here because of you, and we are only as good as we can be because of you, the people tuning in, listening every week, commenting throughout the live shows. Thank you so much to all of you. You know who you are. We love you, and we'll see you right back here next week. He's Joel. I'm Dan. See you later, everybody.